Okay, I wanted to film a little bit of a different video today. So I'm currently on the island of Menorca, just off the coast of Spain, and I'm staying with a friend at the minute. And I just wanted to film a little bit of a different video rather than the usual email marketing type stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit more about myself, my story, my background, Shawfire, where Shawfire started, where it's going, that kind of thing. So it's currently 26 degrees. If you can hear a lot of birds, or a lot of, actually, to be more specific, chicks, because there's a bird's nest right in this tree right above my head. So if you hear that, that's what it is. A bit more about where I've come from and all the rest. And I think the best place to start there is to talk about my granddad. So my granddad and my grandma, both of them were actually orphans. They grew up in Belfast in Ireland, and they moved over to the UK when they were like 16-ish years old. There was a 10-year age gap between them, and so it wasn't for many years when they kind of met again in the future. They were both in the same orphanage, but then they met again in their late 20s, early 30s. My granddad moved over here, age 16, with nothing. He had nothing but the clothes on his back, and he managed somehow to build a family of 5 kids that are all very successful, very intelligent, doing good things with their lives. And he just overcome such incredible odds to start with literally nothing, not even his own parents, and then managed to build that family. And he's still going now. He's 92 years old, so he will be later this year. So he's doing pretty well for himself. He's always inspired me with that, and that I think is also where I kind of get my drive and my graft from. He was working. He's always worked in things like manufacturing and very like laborious jobs. So he's always been a grafter, my granddad. He's always had a lot of energy, even up until I think he was like 70 years old. He was running around playing football with me and my brother when we were this big, and we didn't understand the difference in how old he was and how young we were, and we were still expecting him to go chasing after the ball or do really well in net. But yeah, he was always very active, and I think that's part of the reason why he's still with us today, and he's still got his faculties in check. He's doing pretty well. Yeah, he's healthy and all the rest, so grateful for that. But yeah, that I think is where I get my drive from. When it comes to entrepreneurial experiences, I've always kind of knew that I was going to do something myself. I didn't really know what it was. But my first ever entrepreneurial experience was when I was age 11. So I don't know if you have this in the US, but in the UK, in almost every school up and down the country, without fail, there's always at least one kid who's selling sweets and chocolates, and who knows what it is today. It might be vapes, actually, I think today is what I've heard. But I was that kid who was selling sweets and chocolate to his other classmates and friends on the playground and things like that. And I did that from ages 11 to 16. My mum loved it. My mum loved that I was doing that kind of thing. She was very supportive because I never asked her for any money, which was great. I always had money to buy my own clothes and things like that. Except for the bigger purchases like laptops and whatever else. She would help me, I'd provide let's say if it was £1,000, I'd provide 500, she'd provide the rest. So we had a good arrangement there. Apologies again if you can hear the noise. I tried to connect my mic audio, but it just was not happening, and so I'm doing this just off the MacBook here. And if you're wondering, by the way, where did all this hair come from? The reason is because I haven't filmed a video in 6 months. I've been busy. I've been rebuilding Shawfire with some new positioning that should be live by the time this goes out. It's currently the month of June, so this is the first video I've done since like November 2025. So all the content that you've seen has been filmed long ago. It's still relevant, of course, but yeah, this is the first one I've done for a while. So that explained, this isn't a toupee or anything. This is my real hair. It's not just spawned out of nowhere. So yeah. Anyway, getting back to my story. So that was the first thing I did. I was selling sweets and chocolate when I was age 11. The next thing I did after that was when I was age 14. So I became a football referee age 14. So quite a niche part-time job to have as a kid, basically. So I was reffing kids anywhere from age 7 up until about 17. I even did some academy games for Manchester United, which was quite cool. I was a linesman for them, which was nice. And it, again, was a very unique experience, as you can imagine. I was like a little string bean, like really skinny kid on this pitch with kids who were even bigger than me at like age 10 or 11. And more importantly, I had to deal with the other parents or the kids themselves. They weren't the worst bit. The worst bit was the parents, and it was the managers as well. So you can imagine 40, 50-year-old football mad guys like drinking beers at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, for a kids' football game and screaming at me, a 14-year-old string bean, whenever a decision didn't go their way. It was quite character developing to say the least. It was a really good experience. Some days I really hated it, and I'd come home and I'd throw my uniform in the wash or whatever. I'd kick my bag through the door and I'd say, never again. I'm never doing that again, because it was very nerve wracking and very, like I say, just character building really to stand up to so much scrutiny all the time, because you've got no friends as a referee. You've got people who are either happy with your decision or you're sad, and it alternates constantly. You don't know who's gonna come for you next. So I have a lot of respect for the refs in the Premier League and the World Cup and all the rest. I know that kind of pressure. World Cup or under sevens, it's exactly the same. Anyway, getting back to it, I did that for about 4 years. So from age 14 to 18, dealing with parents, kids, managers, going to different locations around Manchester, Greater Manchester, that is, in the UK. I should probably lead with that. That's where I am currently living, is in Manchester in the UK. I'm moving to Lisbon in September 2026, so that's going to be a new adventure for me, which I'm really looking forward to. But at the minute, I'm mainly based in Manchester in the UK, and that's where I grew up. Anyway, after the refereeing, I got a job in a fish and chip shop, so that was my first kind of like real job, I guess, like part-time job. So I was serving fish, chips, sausages, whatever to people all around my local hometown. Came home every day smelling of fish, but I have a lot of fond memories of that job, and I really respected the owner as well, Ian. Shout out to Ian if you're watching. Sometimes I bump into him still around Manchester, which is always kind of crazy, because Manchester's a relatively big place, and I've bumped into him quite a few times. But yeah, that was my first real job. I learned a lot. I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to also have a lot more respect for people as well, and especially respect for people who do those jobs, because they're not easy jobs. They're really not. So yeah, that was again somewhat character building. After that, I worked as a busboy in a Italian restaurant. So I was serving like 700 people in a day sometimes, just constantly carrying around plates of food, 4 or 5 plates on a single tray sometimes. Real graft work. Some days I'd do 10, 12 hour shifts. I think I checked on my health app once, and I did like 38,000 steps in a single day, just running rings around this restaurant, delivering food and drinks to people. So it's a really kind of grueling, like physically demanding job. But still, again, I have really fond memories. I met some great people through that. A lot of people from Italy and Spain and Czech and all over Europe, just loads of different people. It was great. I then became a waiter at that same job. So again, I started earning a bit more money, in tips and stuff. Some nights I'd come home with like 100 quid, and I was buzzing. I was only age 19 when I had that job. So it was a lot of money to me to make in just one night from tips. So yeah, I loved it. And then after that, I got my first proper full-time job, which was in a sales company. Now, sales wasn't really for me, especially this kind. It was IT sales, so it wasn't really something that I really was that interested in. Again, I met a lot of great people from it. Shout out to Kevin, just in case you're watching, because that was my old boss. Again, I'm still in contact with him and a few other people. I've got some mates that I've made that I'm still in touch with, going camping next weekend, for example. So I met some great people. I learned a lot about myself, and actually took a lot of the things that I learned from that sales job into helping me build Shawfire. So if you know me, or if you've been on a sales call with me, or you're one of my clients or a former client, you'll know I'm not really a salesy kind of guy. I don't like coming with some kind of script or whatever. I know that every business owner needs to know sales, but I'm not a salesy type of person. I don't really enjoy doing it. And so whilst I did learn a lot from it, I didn't really enjoy working in that role. But I learned a lot of things that would then later go and help me to build Shawfire. So whilst I was doing that job in the pandemic, obviously nobody had anything to do, and I started freelancing. So I started writing product descriptions and blog posts for gaming companies. So that was the first ever job that I had, where I made my own money, and I was getting paid $4 an hour to write these blog posts. And to me, it's kind of crazy to see where I've come from. Again, the fish and chip shop, I was getting paid more than that. I was getting paid £4 an hour, which is like maybe $5. So yeah, I was doing well there. I should have gone back to the fish and chip shop if I wanted more money. But it wasn't about the money for me at that point. It was about learning a new skill and, again, making my own money. So that first job that I got when I was doing the blog posts, it hit like crack for me, because it was it was that it had the same feeling of when I was doing the sweets and the chocolate in high school, when I was selling the things to my classmates and stuff like that. Because I was making my own way, I was kind of blazing my own path, and that's how it felt. And so, I just need to check the battery on this. This thing's going to die on me. Anyway, when I was doing that, it wasn't really about the money, it was about gaining the experience, it was about learning a new skill, and again, just learning to make my own money. So, it started with that. I then moved into doing email copy, and then I was working with agencies. I think, to be honest, I worked with quite a few agencies, and I've worked for one that was okay. So, like, most of the agencies that I work with are their typical age-old story where it's like, the founder doesn't really care. He outsources most of the work to people who equally don't care, but for a lot less money. And then, you don't really, the client doesn't really get a good result. I always say that for every good agency out there, there's probably 100 bad ones. I still think that's true today. But that was what I kind of worked with. I was doing the copy. That was my job, to just do the copy, but then I ended up doing the strategy, and then the management of Klaviyo as well. And just, I was the only one who really actually cared. Me and the other guy was a designer, but the other founders that I work with weren't really so into it. So then at that point, I thought, well, why don't I just do this myself? So I started getting my own clients, started working directly with ecom businesses and doing everything. I was doing the strategy, the copy, the design, the Klaviyo management, the reporting. I did everything myself. And so today, that really helped with Shawfire, because now I know everything. I know the whole business inside and out. I don't just, pull the strings and the operations and whatever behind the scenes. I actually know the strategy. I know it from the ground up because I built it from the ground up. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but that's where I started doing all of the bits associated with email. And then over the course of about 2 years, I started to slowly expand and hire other people. I've always been quite protective of bringing people in. Like, that was at the start. I didn't really want to give up control, or I didn't really want to trust other people, because I've just seen so many bad agencies where they just don't really care so much. So I think I was a bit averse, to doing that. Anyway, eventually I kind of got over myself, and I hired a designer, because I'm terrible at email design. In fact, that's one of my serious weaknesses. Don't get me to design an email for you, it will look trash. So I hired a designer, and the emails got way better. They looked so much more visually appealing, and then more brands wanted to work with me because I had a better thing to offer them. So it started like that. About 3 to 6 months in, I got a designer. Then after about 12 months, I gave up the copywriting, hired a copywriter to do that. And then at about 2 years, I hired my first account manager, someone to do the strategy, to manage the client relationship. And then now, where we are, we've got a team of 10. So we've got account managers, designers, copywriters, Klaviyo technicians, operations manager, and a couple of the little bits and bobs that we get taken care of. So that's where we are now. We're a team of 10. And we started in 2022. I was freelancing for maybe about a year and a half before that. But Shawfire itself didn't really get founded until August, I think it was, August 2022. So that's kind of where I've been, and how we've got to where we are. In terms of what I've maybe learned and what's helped me to get to where I am, I'd say there's something that I learned in every role that I've done. So, the entrepreneurial element from selling sweets and chocolate when I was in school kind of taught me how to run a mini business, so to speak. Teachers said they didn't want us to do it because it was more like drug dealing, which I kind of get, but thankfully I didn't go down that route. Even though I'm sitting here in this very Pablo Escobar kind of vibe with the linen shirt and the the nice backdrop. Thankfully, I never went down that route, and instead I wanted to build a legit company instead. So that got me to where I am now with the entrepreneurial stuff. I'd say that the refereeing taught me how to be independent, how to make decisions and back myself, and also how to direct things as well. It wasn't just like I was standing up to scrutiny constantly and being decisive and things like that, but also actually leading people, leading an entire game of many different ages, all the way down from under sevens children up to 30, 40, 50-year-old adults who are screaming at me, and I have to kind of like put them in place and manage them as well. It taught me a lot of how to manage people, I guess. From the fish and chip shop, and the restaurant, I learned hard work. That's what I learned from those. I learned graft. I learned how to have respect for other people, and also how to deal with people as well. Because even today, you still get some clients that we work with who, not that we work with now, but I have worked with in the past, who can be disrespectful or can be, maybe a little bit different or difficult to manage. And so working in the restaurants, working in the fish and chip shop, that really helped me to learn how to deal with those types of people and to be patient and to make sure that everybody gets the experience that they're looking for at the end of the day. Because that's what people are doing when they go to a restaurant. They want to have an experience, they want to be taken care of, and it's not really that far of a stretch from what it is that we do now with Shawfire. Anyway, so that's what I learned from that. And then from the sales job, I think I already mentioned, I learned how to build rapport with people, how to actually sell, how to actually, convince people to why they should work with me. And then from the freelancing, I built everything from the ground up, the copy, the design, and all the rest. And that just kind of naturally led into what I'm doing now with Shawfire. I also run another company. It's called GRAW AI. I don't think I've spoken about it before. That I've started with one of my friends, very close friend, Chris. He's the developer. I'm the marketing guy, the sales guy, I guess, reluctantly, of course. But yeah, together we're a great team. We're building GRAW. GRAW is it's kind of like Rufus for Amazon. If you've ever been on Amazon, if you've ever been on Amazon, and you've ever used Rufus, their AI chatbot thing, it's like that but better. So we started developing that before Rufus came out, and the whole purpose of it is when you've got people coming to your website, if you're an ecom brand owner, you've got people going to your website and they've got a million questions. Do these shoes fit me? Do you have this color? When is X back in stock? Is this cream okay for people with eczema? They've got all questions under the sun. Some people are just lazy and don't want to read the description. Some people, sometimes they just don't know because you've not put it on there yourself, like on your product page. I'm the first type more than anything. I always use Rufus when I am looking for something on Amazon and I want to know, like, does this microphone connect to my laptop? Like, which I've now found out it doesn't, hence why I'm doing this without a microphone. So that kind of thing, it's great. There's a few other competitors that we've got. There's plenty actually that are starting to come up, but Graw's great. I've tested Rufus. I've tested other competitors that we've got, and Graw is better. I would say that, of course, but go and check it out yourself. Yeah, so we've got some clients who are currently using that, and it's just kind of getting started. But I'm looking forward to seeing what we can build with Graw. It's a really great product, a great software that we've built. So shout out to Chris. Anyway, that's pretty much my story. So where we're going next, I guess, is the thing that I should speak about. We're now working with brands that are doing million plus per month, so Shopify companies. And by the time this video comes out, if I actually remain consistent, which I will with my video posting, we've created a brand new service. There's no other agency that I've seen that's doing this service, and I've coined it as retention engineering. So if you're an ecom brand owner, what that means is rather than just us coming in and sending emails for you, instead now we're going to focus on your LTV, we're going to focus on your repeat purchase rate, which takes a lot more time and effort than you would think. And it costs quite a lot as well. So that's why, hence we're only working with the brands that are doing $1 million plus per month, because those are the ones who can afford it. Those are the ones who it's actually going to move the needle for them. If we bump something by even a few percentage points, it could amount to an extra 7 figures in revenue annually. So it's a great service. It's live on our website. In fact, there'll be a video on the website if you want to go and learn a bit more about that, then go and check it out at shawfiremedia.com. But I don't want to go into too much detail here. But that's where we're going next. So we've got Shawfire with retention engineering, and then I've got GRAW, which is my software company. So those are the two things that I'm working on right now. I also really want to build an ecom brand, and I really, really want to build one. And that's the next logical step for me once I've got Shawfire to a point where it's starting to kind of grow organically, hence the content that I'm doing here. We have a great service, we have a great team, we have a great history, we've got a great client base that we work with. It's just that nobody knows about us, and it's just that there's so many other agencies out there that, like I say, for every good agency, there's 100 bad ones. So how do you, as the brand owner, know that the one that you're working with is actually going to be good? That's the problem. And that's why I'm doing this content, and that's why I'm doing this video, just to show that I'm not just a robot who talks about email and ecom and all the rest. I actually have, I guess, an interesting story. I never really think about it, but whenever I tell this story, people are kind of interested. So if you liked it, if you enjoyed, then like and subscribe, I guess. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Let me know what other things maybe you want to know. I don't know. I'm still new to this whole YouTube experience, but I'm just going to try and approach it as naturally as I can. Try and give as much value and not really LARP on camera. That's not really in my nature. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm going to go to the beach because it's 26 degrees and the UV is like 8 or 9 today. So I'm going to go and get burnt. Get the factor 50 out. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're interested in more, like I say, hit the subscribe. Let me know what other content you'd like to see, or if you've got an email question, feel free to drop it below, or you want to learn a bit more about me, subscribe or send me an email. Again, if you're a brand owner, you're looking for an email marketing agency to work with, you want somebody who's actually going to move the needle on your LTV, on your repeat purchase rates, on things that actually matter, then yeah, drop me a message or drop a comment below. But either way, like I say, I'm probably going to do more of these videos, so even if you just want the to know a bit more about me, then you can also subscribe. But it won't be as nice video as this, I imagine, in the future. This is probably the nicest video, and it's going to make a banging thumbnail, I can say that. But yeah, for the most part, it'll be me talking about emails and GRAW and building Shawfire, building GRAW, maybe even building my own brand one day. That's what I really want to do. I'm not quite so sure yet what it is exactly, like what niche and stuff, but hopefully all of that is coming. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Please cut the thumbs up at the end there. Oh my word.